women are gorgeous in their long frocks, dangly earrings and blue eyeshadow, and the men are open and warm, thawed out in the midst of the winter chill. My childhood was not a happy one, and Christmas memories like these stand out as brief moments when everything was okay and everyone was bright and sparkling. For a long time, I used to associate this first memory of what turned out to be Christmas with the pub. But as I grew older and began visiting the local pubs myself, I could never figure out which one it could have been. Obviously, the decor would have changed over the decades, but even accounting for the difference in scale perceived by a tiny person in an adult's arms and a gawky teenager, my magical glowing place had been much bigger than any of the boozers in our village, or even in the town centre. My dad has been dead for a long time now, and there's no reason why he'd remember one random Christmas from the late 60s or early 70s, even if he was still around to ask. But thinking back, my parents hardly ever went to the pub at all. My dad, on the rare occasions when he drank, was a clubman. Words are powerful. When you look at who controls their meanings, you can see where the power in a society lies. Take clubman, for example. Ask someone in the north what a clubman is, and they'll tell you it's a bloke who tends to do their drinking in a club. Working men's club, social club, ex-servicemen's club, labour club, whatever, rather than a pub. Ask an affluent, well-connected person in the south, and a clubman is a member of a gentleman's club. Fine, some words have different associations for different groups of people. Mecca is either a chain of bingo halls or the most holy city in Islam, depending on your point of view. But the Oxford English Dictionary defines clubman as a man who is a member of a gentleman's club. And that's it, no possibility of a double meaning. This is revealing of, at best, a profound ignorance of the reach and impact of the working men's club movement, and at worst, a deep institutional bias against the history and interests of the working class. Likewise, ask a grizzled veteran stand-up comedian or a singer and TV personality such as Tom Jones or Jane MacDonald what Clubland is, and they'll tell you it's a circuit of working men's clubs, mainly in the north of England. Ask the internet, and it's St James's, an area of Westminster in London where many gentlemen's clubs were located, with no mention of its working-class equivalent. Members of gentlemen's clubs tend to be influential people, aristocrats, politicians, and men at the top of the business, professional and military worlds. So of course they get written about, in history, academia, memoirs, even novels. Phileas Fogg famously circumnavigates the globe in 80 days, using Pall Mall's Reform Club as his start and finish point. There are enough books about the upper-class version of Clubland to fill a small library. While the term gentleman's club is now hilariously used more often as an attempt to paint a veneer of respectability onto strip clubs and lap dancing bars, London's lofty version of Clubland is familiar to millions who would never actually be allowed through its doors. However, if you want to read something about working men's clubs, you're going to struggle. There's Clubmen, an official history of the Club and Institute Union, CIU, written by George Tremlett and published in 1988, a self-published book by academic and lifelong club-goer Ruth Cherrington from 2012, and a hard-to-find history workshop pamphlet from 1971. Throw in 2 or 3 academic papers, an unpublished PhD thesis, and the odd chapter in a sociology textbook from the 70s, and that's pretty much it. Of this collection, only Ruth's book is commercially available at the time of writing. Does this imbalance, this domination of the idea of clubland and clubmen by the upper-class versions of those words, reflect the relative social and cultural importance of working men's clubs versus gentlemen's clubs? Hardly. At their height, there were around 400 gentlemen's clubs in London. The total membership of these clubs is not known, but let's be generous and say that in total it ran to the tens of thousands. Hell, let's pretend it's Christmas, and say, for the sake of argument, that the membership of gentlemen's clubs at its peak topped 100,000, or even 200,000, but that's probably getting a bit silly. At the time I was being held in all that colour and light, working men's clubs and social clubs were at their peak. In 1974, there were 4,033 clubs affiliated to the CIU, and at least as many again that were not affiliated to the union. Over